All right, cool. So the title of this video is Money, Energy, and the Zero Sum Game. So essentially, this video, I'm going to be kind of building upon a lot of the stuff that I was speaking about in the absolute truth. Obviously, this is going to be a completely different video, different topics. As I said, I'm speaking about money and so on and so forth. So this one's going to be more practical. But as I said in the previous videos, everything in this relative plane has to be built bottom up. And remember how I said, if any of your foundations are wrong, then your conclusions will be wrong or the structure will be wrong. And as I said, this is also, you have to take into account time, because you could also build a structure that's kind of lopsided and it will still remain, but it's just that it's going to be very inefficient and it's going to collapse sooner. As I said, time is the unfoldment of truth. So the truth of the matter that it was a imbalanced structure or whatever, it'll kind of reveal the truth of the matter that it wasn't aligned with truth a lot quicker, as I said. So if your foundation's wrong, you may still be able to build some kind of structure, but yeah. But my whole point is that I'm going to be building on that foundation. That video was the real foundation. As I said, that one has to equal to one. So once you kind of start building from there, all my other videos after this are going to be kind of building upon those. So if you're new, you should really watch those first. But yeah, let's get into it. So essentially, yeah, money, energy, and the zero sum game. So why have I called it that? Really, it's essentially this idea that money is essentially zero. We all know that money doesn't exist, right? Like, it's just pieces of paper, it's just a concept, so on and so forth. This is kind of basic stuff. But still, even though we know that, like on the surface level, as I said, it's kind of the same with in the last video how I said it's easy for us to say we know the map is not the territory, kind of when we're just speaking like this, but in practice we kind of forget, right? So you might know that money's fake, right? For example, but if someone was there and like they asked you for your bank details and your code to your bank account, you're not gonna fucking give it to them, even if you know that it's just all fake. You know what I'm saying? And in a sense, that's correct, because even though we know it's not real, we know that everyone else believes in it and it's reinforced back into society. So in the end, ultimately, it doesn't really matter if it's real or not. Like, as long as everyone else believes in it, like, I need it, so on and so forth. And that's true. You do need money to some extent. But yeah, because the way it's built, right? We have this idea that, as I said, that money is kind of substantial. Like, there is actually such a thing as money, and there's loads of money in supply, right? And I just need to get a lot of it. This kind of idea. However, the premise of this video, what I'm suggesting is that yes, we know money is not real, just in terms of notes or in terms of digital pixels on a screen on your phone app or whatever. We know that, but I'm saying it really also doesn't exist. So it exists, but it's always equal to zero. So what really is money or banking, all of these kinds of things, is simply just the measurement. It's just keeping accounts of where the money is going. So you could think of, as I said, everything is zero, right? And then let's say like one person has £1 million, then you have to kind of see it that there's somewhere else there's a million in debt. Or if someone has £1 billion, then somewhere else there's a billion in debt. essentially. So this is kind of the credit and debt system. However, it gets more tricky, and I'll explain all of that later on. Um, but if you really think about it, why is it called a bank balance? Why is it an account, a bank account? Let me check my bank balance. And this is also why I said money, energy, because I'm also saying that, as I said, energy, as I said in the past video, is zero. It's just the oscillation of zero. It's a vibrant void. And through the vibrant void, even though it's always zero, we can create temporary appearances of forms which appear to be real, but then they will disappear. But if they appear to be real for just a long enough time and then you buy into it, you believe it, then it seems like it's there, right? So what I'm essentially saying is that money and energy are, well, essentially the same thing, kind of. It's like in life, all we really have is time and energy. We have our own energy, right? And we have a certain amount of time. Time unfolds like consistently for all of us. It's a certain kind of constant, right? But we can't speed up time or make it go slower or whatever. So that one, even though we have a certain amount of time and you can control what you do in that time, you can't actually control time itself, but you can control your energy, how you expend your energy within that time. So when it comes to jobs, contracts, all these things, what they're doing, you're selling them your time in exchange for money. And you could even have a job where or on one day you might be working less and you expend less energy or you expend more energy, but it was only, you got paid for that chunk of time. So it was only about time at that point. So, and this is obviously the difference between like being your own boss, um, entrepreneurship, or kind of just working as an employee. Because as an entrepreneur, you could, it's not really, you're not really just signing a contract and just getting paid for that amount of time. You could take some kind of project or endeavor and you could make way more money in a shorter amount of time with less energy expended, or you might have to expend more energy but it's in a shorter amount of time, or it's in a longer amount of time but less energy. But with, when it comes to being in employment, it's fixed and so on, right? But essentially my point is that we have time and energy, but energy, we only have a limited amount of energy throughout your whole life. You have to kind of think your body is like a battery. You see in the Matrix, everything's just a battery and so on. I'm not just saying, everything's just the Matrix, whatever, blah, 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 but it is kind of true. Our body is like a battery and we have a certain amount of charge for your life, right? And the way I kind of see it, if you kind of live your whole lifespan out till old age, obviously you can die through disease and so on and so forth. But if you kind of live out your whole life, your energy is going to be kind of, your charge is slowly just dissipating down. Like if you look at old people, you'll see like they have less charge. They no energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's literally as you get older, your charge is going down, and you could kind of think of it as each time you sleep or you consume, you can kind of bring it back up, but only temporary. It's kind of like if you look at a chart of, I'm into investing and so on, but you could, so you could kind of, sorry, I got interrupted, but yeah, so you could kind of think of it as a chart, right? And it's almost like each time you like go sleep or you consume food and you feel re-energized in comparison to maybe how you felt 30 minutes ago or something, right? It's a boost, but really you can never like gain your life energy back like once the charge is dissipated down. You get what I'm saying? Like you have your life is a certain kind of capacity of charge of energy, and then it slowly gets dissipated the more actions you take and the more you do, so on and so forth, till you get closer to death. And obviously you could kind of die through some kind of accident before you fully expend your energy. But then, obviously, that's where we go into like some other people might suggest that, for example, then you would kind of go into the afterlife, or there's some kind of bardo state where you have to kind of kind of go through all of that, let it unwind. I'm not too sure on that. I'll never kind of claim that there's an afterlife or what happens after death. I've never died physically, so I don't really ever get how there's certain teachers as well. They're so certain. They say, "Oh, this will happen after death," or so on, and they're like, you can say, "Oh, perhaps it's like that," but how are you so certain? And there's even this kind of thing where I kind of fell in the trap of before, of like, oh, like they're enlightened, they're more enlightened, they see more than me, and all of this kind of stuff. Like, nah, I can't lie. I don't buy it anymore. I don't buy it. But anyway, yeah. So it's all about, right. Like in that movie, The Matrix, they was kind of just sucking out the energy of everyone and kind of using it to build their own thing or whatever. And it was like the robots or whatever. Um, so you could kind of use that same analogy. It's kind of like the same thing. But I'm not just here trying to speak about, you're in the Matrix, the elites are trying to steal your energy and all of this. Like it's cool, but you kind of already know all of this stuff. It's not really anything new. And it's not really like, just one malicious group out there like scheming on you. Like no one gives a fuck about you. No one gives a fuck about me. Like we're just, you know what I'm saying? We're just no one. Like, but it's more about like the masses in general. Um, but yeah, so really all we have, as I said, is time and energy. And how do you get money? By either accomplishing something through expending your energy. So like you could be getting paid on price. So some people, for example, like they will actually, as I said, kind of with the entrepreneurship. But even if you're self-employed, you could like it might be a particular task that you have to do, and then you'll get paid for that. Like if you do that task this many times, you'll get paid like for each of those. So the more you do, the more you'll get paid, and then there's different kinds of ways of measuring. But my whole point is that you get money, you get money by expending energy or by trading your time, which is essentially your life. um, so yeah, so and remember how I told you that energy is actually zero. It's just the oscillation of zero, right? So I'm trying to build the foundation for you here, but I'm leading somewhere. So as I said, so even yeah, so why is it called a bank balance or a bank account? Because as I said, there is no such thing as money, right? There's just banks, which they just have no money. It's just zero. It's just getting created out of thin air, right? It's just nothing. But then they're giving out loans, these kinds of things, right? They'll give out a loan to some kind of business, and then they'll flip that and make profits and all of this kind of stuff, right? And then like this person will be making money here, this person will lose this, and then even the term liquidity, like money being referred to as liquid, and why is it called banks? The banks. Because think about it, and why is everything to do with money or the economy dark blue? Like, look, go on the Federal Reserve's website or type in anything to do with the economy or anything like that. It's always dark blue because money is literally represented by water. It's the flow of water, the flow of energy. Money can never stay stagnant. It can for a certain period of time, but it's always moving. And especially the people who make the most money, they're always keeping it moving, reinvesting in themselves and creating this kind of feedback loop that just keeps on charging back up and investing in itself, right? So yeah, the banks. Think about the banks, because before, like, what is a bank? A river bank. And even if you look at it, yeah, London, New York, all the places where it's the centralized places for banks and these things, it's close to water. There's either the Thames there, or like New York is right close to water. It's all of these things, because think about back before, in like hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, it was all about, because what is money? All this is all about exchange. So think about the places that were the like the richest and so on. It's like, because everything's about the trade of products or whatever the fuck you want to trade, right? You're trading. So, and how were people trading before, back in the day? It was all through the boats. Like you bring this product on this boat and then you ship it to the ports or to the banks. You know what I'm saying? So essentially you need to start thinking, and why is it called liquidity? Are you liquid? It's because money is about, and even energy, current, like even I don't know about you, but if when I go on my bank account, it says my current account, current. The flow of the current must always flow. If you look at like an electric circuit, there's the plus on one side and the minus. Any battery, and then it just goes like this. There is not really any charge. It's just the opposite of charge that makes it go like this. So this is kind of the debt and credit system, right? And the whole point I'm trying to make to you is that you think that there is actually money, but there is money, but there isn't. All there is the accounts of where the energy is going and where the energy is being expended. So, all right, cool. I'm gonna, right. So it's kind of difficult for me to like. It's difficult for me to explain this, right? But let me at first, for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how this like is very practical and how this will help you, right? And then I feel like once I can explain this, and then you'll maybe start to understand where I'm kind of going with this. So I don't know if you've ever heard, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, if it's like the law of effort and return, or it's something to do with that, right? But you could kind of think, I'm gonna draw this graph. So essentially this is like the effort that you're using, like the effort expended, and then this represents the reward or the return, right? So once you kind of accept that money is essentially just recording energy, which is nothing, is zero, but it oscillates, it can't stay still. Remember, just like the current and the water, and it's always flowing, right? So once you kind of understand this and you accept this is where it really helped me. Once I kind of understood this, and then I started to understand this as well, because how do a lot of people go wrong? First of all, like in terms of finances and all these things, first of all, they'll be spending money they don't have. Second of all, how do people get scammed, or they do all kinds of wrong business ideas or this or that? It's because you're always trying to basically get a quick fix. You're always trying to do a shortcut. Like, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to try and be efficient and work smart, not hard. But what you have to understand and accept is that the return or the reward must always be equivalent to the effort expended. Because, as I said, look, this is just zero, right? That's just zero. And then like it might look like this isn't zero. This is kind of what I'm saying. We're like the money and so on and so forth. But really, it's like like you could say, oh, that's substantial, but it's rooted in zero. So like you could put low effort, but then you're gonna get a low reward, right? And then I'm gonna get to like a few of your like objections later, but I just need to explain this, right? And then so it's kind of the classic no pain, no gain, right? And obviously, there's a lot of these kind of quotes that people throw around, but they don't really understand fully. And like, you get it, but like when you really get this, it'll help you a lot. So like, then for example, if you start understanding this, and then you think, oh, so if I put more effort, then I'll get more of a reward. And then like, if like let's say for example, you want to get like a Mercedes for 30,000 or something like that, and then like that's like on this kind of level, and then so then you're gonna have to expend more energy, for example, more like effort than, for example, someone who just wants to get a cheap Vauxhall second hand or something like that. Like you're gonna have to expend more energy and apply more effort to get a larger result. Do you get it? It's kind of like that meme, the more you fuck about, the more you'll find out. But this is literally just with effort and reward. So this is a very simple concept. And there are certain instances where, for example, someone was lucky or something like that. For example, they were born into a rich family or they won the lottery. But for example, this is the perfect thing, is that when you like look at all the people who've won a lottery, they usually always end up going broke very fast, and then even into debt. Because, and even if you look at any kind of charts, if you've done any investing, anything like that, like it's kind of the same as a pump and dump, right? It's literally like the higher or quicker you rise, the higher you will fall. I mean, the quicker and faster you'll fall. So it's like if you basically get something, a really high reward with minimum effort, it's going to get rebalanced really quickly. You kind of have to think of reality as a dynamic scale, which is recording everything. Even though there is no God or someone sitting there like doing this, and it's not like that. It's because it's really nothing. It's really nothing, and it always was. It's just, what I'm saying? So it can never not be itself. So it's not like, someone's recording it. It's just that it just always is that. It's just that in this particular instance, it looks like this, but then, what I'm saying? And then, as I said, there's things that are really deviated from truth and closer to truth. So the things that are closer are going to last way longer, and so on and so forth. So yeah, like for example, or even like a kid who, was born with a rich family or whatever, they might not lose the money straight away, but they're not even going to value it. And to people who are born poor, and it's, that sounds nice, but I'd still rather be born as that. But you don't get it. You just don't get it. Like same way you're sitting here, right? And then let's say you're in a first world country, but let's say like you're not rich or anything like that. Like you just make the average wage or whatever, right? You're taking for granted that you have a roof over your head, that you have clean water, that you have the internet. You're already looking for more. You're like, but I want the millions. I want the mansion. I want this. See, but then you just don't get it, basically. Like, no. It's easy for us to say, like that guy, like he doesn't he takes it for granted, but like still, I'd rather cry in a Bugatti, right, or whatever the fuck, right? But you just don't get it. You're only saying that from where you are now, but then you don't understand, and then it's easy because you're here now, and then you think, because you're not there yet and you can't see it, then you think, like, all I need is just a mansion, like 10 million and a Ferrari and a supermodel girlfriend, and then I'll be nice. And then I'll be good, chill. And then watch when you get there. You're still going to want something more, because our nature is to expand infinitely until you're everything, essentially. Um, but yeah, so as I said, people either like if you get something think about it, when you got something that was easy, did you really did you really value it? Or like let's say for example, let's say for as I said, because everything is by comparison. So we might say, oh, £1 million is a lot, or $1 million is a lot, or $10 million, but it's only a lot because very minimal amount of people have that much. If everyone in the world had 1 million, would it be a lot then? You see? So essentially what I'm saying, right, is, and I'm not saying that you have to expend all the effort to get this like major thing, like it doesn't really matter. But what I'm just saying is, right, you have to kind of see, what do you want? Would you be satisfied with, you know what I'm saying, just a nice car, you know what I'm saying, one house, a little family and so on, go on like 1 or 2 holidays a year and so on and so forth. Now that's calm. I think that's calm. But then you have to realize, all right, cool. So what I want is kind of like here. It's not like something that just everyone can get. Like there's people, homeless people, there's people who can't even pay their rent and this and that, and they can't even get a girlfriend or whatever. So it's not like just some easy thing, right? But it's also not becoming a billionaire or, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So then you have to accept that, all right, cool, I'm going to have to put in more effort and time than that guy who only wants something down here. And then if you want to have this thing, right, then you have to accept that you're going to have to, as I said, because everything is zero. So what are you paying, like, how to get this? Like, what are you paying for it for? Like, what are you exchanging? Do you see? So you're going to have to exchange more of your life energy, your time, your energy, your charge. And to get a smaller thing, you can do very minimal effort. That's fine, but then you're not going to get a lot. So that's something you have to accept. So this is kind of what this whole model explains. And once you really once this ingrains in your head, then you're not going to really have problems being lazy or working or whatever. Because if you know, all right, cool, what I want is something like very extraordinary, only 0.001% of people have that, then you're gonna begin to understand, okay, because everything equals out to zero, every equation equals out to zero. If I want something that's extremely valuable, I need to become extremely valuable in order to generate enough wealth to be able to pay for that and exchange it. Because remember, it's always zero, it's always balanced. And anytime it's imbalanced, it will only remain so for a short period of time, or so on and so forth. So what I would even say, and this is why, certain times you're going to have to even make sacrifices as well. Like, a lot of the things that you want that are actually valuable and worth having, they're not easy to attain. And everyone, as I said, because they aren't aware that everything is zero and you can't take shortcuts or just, I just got to do it this way and then I'll get that major thing with this small play or whatever. Like, even some people, they might scam or they might steal or whatever, right? And then some very small amount might pull it off. But pretty much all of them, they're going to have that peak, that spike. They're going to have millions for a couple of years, and then the rest of the time they're going to be in jail. Or they're gonna have that money, but then the whole time they're gonna always have to hide it, and they're always looking around, thinking, "Oh, who's gonna get do you see? So you're always paying somehow. Nothing's for free. This is when you start realizing that there is nothing for free, and even when there's times when someone's kind of presents like they're giving you something for free. You're not really even getting that the energy exchange. They're even kind of already giving you something for free. And then now you might not realize it, but in your mind deep, you kind of know, now I'm indebted to them. Like, even if you watch certain YouTubers, right? And they release loads of content for free, which is great. And they help a lot of people. And then they also have other content art, and then they have a course which costs money or or like some kind of thing where you could support them, the Patreon. And I've even realized this myself. Like, I watch some people, they've never asked for money. But then over the years, they've helped me so much. They've given so much value to me that I even felt compelled. Like, it wasn't even a trick or anything like that. But I actually felt like I wanted to give back to them because they generate so much value. They gave so much to me for free. It was like I wanted to even it out, balance out the scale. Do you understand? So, yeah, so as I said, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be taking the shortcuts, and they might be like up here now or something because they done a scam and this and that. But then let's say you don't even see this bit yet, like they haven't even crashed yet. And then you might be doing like the slow and steady grind. And then if you compare yourself to them now, it looks like you're below them, right? But then as time goes on, remember, time is the unfoldment of truth. This is time. As time goes on, then you're going to eventually be up here or whatever, and then they're down here in the dumps. You see? So once you start to understand these things, right? Another very simple quote that I came up with that I think like puts it like just so clearly, right? Is if you are aligned with truth, time will work for you. But if you are misaligned with truth, then time will expose you. So anytime you're trying to do something and you think, oh, but then as time goes on, it might collapse or this, then you know that you're really trying to make something happen that it's not that. It's not that. It shouldn't feel like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should slowly be, like, an example is, for example, for cryptocurrency, right? If you look at Bitcoin or you look at some of the low caps, Bitcoin is obviously it's been here for way longer. It's already like done a lot of its main returns and so on and so forth. And you're not like gonna make as much returns as you might make from some small cap and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying, oh, just invest in Bitcoin or whatever. And I'm not a financial advisor. Do not invest in anything because of something I say in this video. But however, because there's been so many cycles of Bitcoin, right? There's this whole illusion of like, oh, Bitcoin's going to zero. And I'm not saying it won't. I even feel like it probably will at some point in just some insane collapse. But what my main point is, right? Even though it's making less returns, it also makes less crashes or corrections. Whereas, as I said, the other ones might pump and then they'll dump super fast. But why is Bitcoin so solid? Like, why is it so unlikely for it to just crash to zero? Even if it has the craziest crash, it might still just only crash to 10K or 20K or whatever. Because it's built upon so many, it's already had so many cycles, so many investors who will never sell their Bitcoin, so many halvings already. Just the way that the blocks and everything's just constructed with the amount of tokens and everything. Like there's such a foundation that it's building upon, right? That it's just so stable that like even if there was no activity in Bitcoin for it would take a while for it to go to zero because there's already just so much like stability. Do you know what I'm saying? But then if you just like, it's like, as I said, like a building. If you build a building with perfect geometry, perfect materials and so on and so forth, of course, in eternity, everything will crumble. All forms will crumble. But that thing there, like, look, there's some structures and things that have been here for thousands of years. They're still kind of here. They're still strong. But then if you build something, and those things, I guarantee you, especially because they had probably, obviously this is an assumption, we don't know, but they probably did have way less technology back then. So I would even suggest that I feel like a lot of those buildings, you know, those crazy churches and temples and all kinds of things that are still here, like the archaeology and all of that, I even feel like they took way longer to build those. I feel like they took generations to build those. And then once it was built, it was just so solid. It just stayed there for such a long time. But then if you build something now that takes a year or two to build, then you might get a couple of earthquakes or something, boom, it's just collapsed. You know what I'm saying? No solidity, no nothing, because this is what I'm saying. Even though everything is zero, you can still expand into profits, but it always has to be in the scale. You get what I'm saying? So that was the original of this picture that I drew. So yeah, so as I said, there is no money, right? There's just some people who have debt, some people who have credit, and it's always equal to zero, but it's just always keeping accounts. We're just recording. Oh, that money's here, over there for today. And then that person spend it here, and then it's over here. And then it goes here, and then, you know what I'm saying? The money's always rotating. It's always rotating like a circle. Remember, zero. Remember, the current. So this is what I'm trying to explain to you, that money is nothing. Money is nothing. And it's the zero-sum game. However, and this is where we kind of get into I'll get into that later, right? But yeah, so what you have to kind of realize is that every time you're gaining, like let's say you make money, someone else lost that money. Necessarily, like people, they don't even think 2 or 3 steps ahead. They just think, oh, I went to work and I just got paid. I made money. You didn't make money. Money can't be made. This is what you need to get. Money can't be made. Okay, like real money. But then this is what we're gonna get into all of that stuff later, right? But right now, like really, what money and energy and all of this stuff is really, it can't be made, okay? So this is where the central banks and all this printing and inflation and all this stuff, I'm going to address all of that. But, yeah, so if someone's gaining, that's another person's loss, because where did the money come from? There's only a finite amount of money. And then this is why I'm saying, because we're going to get into this problem later with the central banks printing and infinite money or so on. That's how they make it seem. But yeah, so someone's gain is always someone else's loss. And even, let's say that person who lost, sometimes like you might just win and they might just completely lose. They didn't gain anything. And then you just gained everything and then they just lost everything. That's usually kind of when people are stealing from each other and so on and so forth. But usually in exchange, let's say in exchange for a service, like they pay you, you give them a service where you're expending your energy. See, even on your level, you're expending energy to give them the service and then you're going to get money in return. See, it's still zero. You expended real physical energy and then you got the money. So that's the balance for you. Then they've lost the money, but then they've received the service. And then even for them, let's say their money is going down. If you're measuring with money, they've lost in terms of money. But then, as I said, they may have gained all kinds of knowledge, which they can then leverage to make more money, way more money in the future. All these kinds of things, right? So you have to kind of see that everything is an exchange. And really, we have this idea that we've gone out of the barter system, but really it's still the barter system. It's just that money is kind of like this third dimension of it. It kind of lubricates and makes it easier, because now I don't have to just swap this thing with this thing. Like we can swap with money, and then you can use that money to barter with for something else that you actually want, right? So it's just a one extra step. So yeah, but now we're gonna get into kind of how things are in the current times with the central banks and how they're printing so much money, especially since COVID. And stimulus from the bank crisis in 2008, and for example, being removed from the gold standard in 1973. These kinds of things, right? Because, for example, before we was backing money up with gold, which is a finite thing, because you know this whole thing in economy are like supply and demand and all of these kinds of things are if there's a low supply and a high demand, then the price is going to go up because loads of people want it. There's not a lot of it, so it's valuable. Remember how I told you, if everyone had $1 million, would it be valuable? No. All right, cool. So these are all measures of value, remember? So, and then if there's a high supply and a low, then it's worth nothing. That's why, what's inflation? Why are all the prices so high now? Because there's so much money, because they've been printing so much. So there's so much money in circulation that a £10 note is like worth a £5 note now, or even less than that. You know what I'm saying? So you start to get it, right? But how has this happened? How has this happened? And this is where it's going to just start to make so much sense to you, right? Because remember how I said everything is zero, and even in the previous video I was speaking about why the United States is like the world leading power and so on and so forth, and how this was the central bank. But I didn't really get into it. But essentially, what you have to kind of realize is, right. So, for example, like the UK has a central bank, Germany has a central bank, France has a central bank, everywhere has a central bank, but they all get their money from the US central bank. So you have to kind of see it as, you know what I'm saying, someone's getting a loan, from somewhere, and then they're getting a loan from it all has to come from a source somewhere, and that is the Federal Reserve Central Bank of the United States. And that was created, I believe, it was either just before or after World War One. I think it was before. And the way this whole system works, and why is inflation so high, why is everything like the way it is now, is because, as I said, everything is zero the way I said it is and how it is supposed to be. But then this is where interest comes in. And then even if you look at, for example, Islam, or they don't use interest, or they say that interest, I can't remember what they call it, but they say it's like haram and all of that. You know, like it's banned, and it's for a good reason. Because if you actually see it, right, like let's say there's zero money, right, and then this person's earned that much, they have that, and then someone else has took this loan, so they're in debt here and whatever, and we're just keeping accounts, we're just recording where this is going, so on and so forth. So everything is zero, right? But then if I give out a loan to you, and then you have to pay me interest back, then do you see how it's going below zero now? So, and with every loan and payback, is going into minus overall for the whole global economy. So like you have to kind of think like, is zero. If there was no interest, they might loan this guy something, you know what I'm saying, then he'll do it, but then eventually it will come back. And then this guy has something, and then eventually it'll come back or whatever. But it will still always just be equal to zero, because as I said, money can't be created. Like it can't be created, it's just zero, right? But they are creating money, but they aren't. See, they are creating money, but they're printing money, right? And they say, there's an infinite supply of money and we can keep on just printing, and keep inflation down and all of this stuff. But it's all cap, because just think about it. It's not even a difficult concept to get. Like if there's just zero, right? And then I lend you 100 million, and then even just 1% interest. I don't know how much that is. That's probably 1 million. Yeah. So then, and then you pay me back, and then, so now you've paid me back 101 million. But then do you see how now there's less money out there? There's 1 million less. And then let's say they take another like billion. And then I bring up interest rates even now to 5%. Now they have to pay me like 5 million or whatever extra, and then so there's 5 million less in circulation. So then what you have to kind of clock, right? In a sense, it's kind of like it's tricky, right? It's tricky. And also, I'm not like an economist or anything. Like I'm not a financial advisor or a bank or anything. So there might be some small minutia or something that I might get a little bit wrong, or might get like the details I might get a little bit miscorrect, right? But it's more about the whole meta point. Like, it's actually about the point that I'm trying to make. So once you kind of understand what I'm saying, it like the nitty gritty, like the minutia doesn't really matter. But you have to understand like the process or particular way, or actually you said this, but in fact it's like, all right, cool, but you're not really, you're getting caught in the minutia. As I said, you're getting caught in the little frame now. But I'm trying to give you a whole meta point that it's just, you're gonna get it. So if you think about it, if there's always less money, if there's less money in supply than zero, like it's gonna be crabs in a bucket, because even if there's the natural resources of the world are abundant, like you have to think the central banks. All right, well, I don't want to really be like blaming or pointing fingers or saying, oh, it's this person or that person or whatever, but you could have people fighting for scraps, even if it's not really for scraps. Because remember, before, as I said, money was backed up by gold, because gold is something is here, tangible, and it's finite. We might like find more gold or whatever, but there's a limited amount that it is. So it makes sense, because, and that's the way it has to be. Because then, yeah, think about it. If right, there's a limited amount. Let's say there's only 100 bars of gold in the world, right? But then, yeah, more people want it. Then the price is gonna go up. But then, if less people want it, then it's gonna go down. But then, you see how it's anchored in like, it is that amount basically. Like, so we could say, all right, cool, like 1 bar of gold represents $10,000 or whatever the fuck, right? But then the money is still backed up by, we say, all right, cool, like this is valuable because even though we know it's just a piece of note, but what it represents is this amount of gold or whatever, which is actually valuable, because there is only, so even with gold, there's not really any value to that, but see, there's too many layers, but at least with that, it's still something tangible, is there, it's limited, right? So like if we lose some and there's less, there was only 100, now there's less, then it's even more valuable now we want it more. You know what I'm saying? So, but once in 1973, once money or the dollar was moved away from the gold standards, there was nothing kind of supporting or anchoring the money anymore, because now it's only faith in the government, basically. It's only like, and you could even look at the notes, it's literally purely, the only thing that gives it value is that you're having faith in the government that it will have purchasing power and that it will be accepted to buy this thing, but there's nothing actually backing it up. So it's just, now it's only just pure digits on the on the thing. There's not actually, so it's, in a sense, they've kind of made it unlimited. It may seem that way on the surface, that it's unlimited, but then the more and more they print, the less and less valuable it is. So it seems like, because it seems like, they could just keep on printing and keep on like, and it'll be fine. If there's more, they'll just print more, and you just don't get it. Look at all what's happening with inflation, and it's just everywhere. Argentina, Turkish lira, this and that, and these are just recent ones. Like, look in the past, like what happens, because if there's way too much of it, then it's not valuable, right? Like right now, to you, oxygen is not valuable, but if you was underwater, like, you know what I'm saying, and then you have $1 billion in your bank account, right? But I've got you underwater, like I've got you underwater right now, and then you're just there, you're drowning, right? And then in that moment in time, what's more valuable for you, your $1 billion or like your life? Like if I told you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some people, they'll be so deluded, they would rather die than lose their billion, right? But still, most people, 99%, you know what I'm saying? Like, in that moment, oxygen's way more than anything else. Like, if you have $1 million in a suitcase on a stranded island with no food, you start to get it now, don't you? Like, it's not, the money is not fucking anything. It's just a tool for exchange to get the thing that you want, the thing that you need. And what you need is different in every, like, one day you need this thing, the next day you need that thing, so on and so forth. So essentially the interest is where it gets very technical, because the more transactions, it's literally just go on Google and type in the US debt and just look. It's just consistently going up. And then if you go on the chart and you look at the DXY, which is the dollar index, you'll see that just slowly is going down. Like, over the decades, it's losing value because they're printing so much of it. So you may think it's infinite, but nothing within this plane of dualism, everything in this plane that has a form is limited. Even if you may make it seem like it's unlimited. Oh, mathematically it's infinite, but it's still not, because you don't get it. This is what I'm saying. But I would even suggest that all of these things, I don't want to get into conspiracies, but I would even suggest that these things were done on purpose. There's no way that these lot, like, were just oblivious to this and just thought, like, we'll just print more. And, like, I don't know, they might have just been that stupid. But I genuinely think that this is the modern way of not slavery, but now they don't even need to whip you with chains. Because think about it. Before, they would have you on chains and stuff, right? And then, like, they'll be whipping you, you have to do this or you have to do that as a slave or something. And then they'll just give you a little place to sleep, maybe a little bit of bread. I'm not saying that, like, life now is as bad as then. Nothing like that. I'm not saying nothing like that. Please do not, like, strawman me. And you trying to say? No, nothing like that, right? But what I'm essentially saying is that you're trapped. You are a slave. You're doing things. Like, if you're being really honest with yourself, like, you wake up for work, you might say, oh yeah, I really like my job and this. But if you really, really had the choice, you would have probably slept in that day. You would have probably not done nothing. It's only because you already have it in the back of your mind, if I don't go to work, then I won't be able to pay rent. I won't be able to buy food. So all of these things, right? So now the way it is, right? And then, for example, if you, like, I don't know how old some of you are, but for example, like, if you have, like, remember back in school when you had an assignment, or you're at work and you have, like, an assignment or something. Let's say it's due in 2 months' time. Yeah, there might be some people, the rare exception, who's going to get onto it now and, you know what I'm saying, do all of that stuff. But majority of people, they're going to procrastinate until the last moment when it's nearly deadline and it's crunch time. Then they're going to fucking get shit done. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? So think about it. If you were the ruling elite and you wanted to create a productive society of people who, not slave, but, you know what I'm saying, just people who just work and they get a lot of shit done, right? Without, like, enslaving them physically or enchaining them or anything like that, or without them even knowing, with them thinking that they're free. They think they're free, but they're not. Like, you're giving them the illusion or perception of freedom, but they're not. But the way you would have done it, right, is, as I said, with the thing with the deadline and crunch time, it's literally the same thing, but with your rent. How many people nowadays live paycheck to paycheck? They're always just 1 month or 1 week away from going homeless or going broke. You're always just a couple, and that's what keeps you going on the hamster wheel. It's not really that you love your job so much or this or that. You can tell yourself that. That's a rationalization. And you might love your job, but even that job that you love, like, let's be honest, like, you probably would do it for a bit, but you wouldn't be fucking doing, like, you get my point, right? So my whole point is that, remember what I was saying with the interest and then bringing down the money supply or printing more, so there's, like, either you could kind of look at it like there's less money in circulation, or you could say there's so much money in circulation that the money's worth less, or whatever, like, way it was, right? The minutiae, as I said, doesn't really matter. But what I'm essentially saying is that they're kind of sucking the resources dry, right? So that, let's say, like, we have 10 people in a room, and then there's 10 sandwiches or, like, 10 plates of food, All right, cool. You might say if one of them psychopathic or I don't know, they haven't eaten for days, they might even still be fighting for that. But if they're just normal, like healthy humans, you know what I'm saying? They're friends or so, you know what I'm saying? They're cool. And then there's 10 like meals and 10 people. It'll be fine. They'll each just have one. Cool. Then like let's say you take out one. So then there's still 10 people in the room, but there's only 9 meals now. Then it might be, it might be a bit of conflict or, you know what I'm saying? Then imagine you take, now there's only 8, but then there's still 10 people. So then you start to see, I'm basically kind of explaining the crabs in the bucket, right? So there's always, even if there is that one billionaire and that one trillionaire and so on and so forth, and it looks like there's people getting richer and all of this stuff, but that in general, in the average, there's less overall. So in fact, even those millionaires and billionaires are making it even less for the people at the bottom. There's less for them. And there's more of them with less now. So there's always, even if there's that 1 millionaire or whatever exception, usually everyone is just fighting to keep their head above water. Just fighting for a breath. Like just trying to make it to the next month. So because there's not a lot of money in circulation or the money's worth less or whatever the fuck, right? People are always, as I said, they're always just a step away, so they will never stop. And they're going to keep working till they're dead. They always think, everyone thinks, I'm going to just do this for now, a couple of years, until you fall dead. Or you know what I'm saying? Or until you're retired and then you're 70, sitting there fucking all cranked up, and then now you're going to enjoy your life and chill. So, yeah, essentially what I'm saying is that this is financial slavery. They've got you by the balls. There's nothing you can do because everyone else believes in the money, and then the money itself is always losing value, and then you're expending, you're still, so it's like, what's fucked is, remember how I was explaining time and energy, you're still, like that time is still the same amount of time. The energy you're expending still might be the same. So you might expend 100 joules of energy or something, and then someone in 1970 might have spent 100 joules of energy, and they got more return. Even though I explained overall that everything is zero, but as I said, everything within this dualistic plane is also fluctuating, and there's small fluctuations and long fluctuations. So there might be a fluctuation that lasts 100 or 200 or 300 years or whatever. So even though eventually it'll get equalized out, and I'm saying, like, even though I'm saying overall in general, effort will always be equal to thing, but as I said, there can be deviations, small deviations for periods of time. So in this instance, back then, you would have got more for the same amount as now. Obviously, it won't always be like this. Eventually, things are going to collapse and things will be reset or whatever the fuck, will create something new, or, you know what I'm saying? But this is just, I'm speaking just about right now, this, like, how things are. So, yeah, it's essentially a financial, it's wage slavery. That's how they've enslaved everyone without even keeping the chains or anything like that. Because think about it. How are people manipulated? It's through your base desires, base survival. You need a house. You need like shelter. You need food. Like these are non-negotiable. And then obviously the last one, sex. So nowadays there's porn and there's fucking this and that. And even if you're not even having sex, they'll even use a model or something to make you more entitled to, or they'll like sex sells, right? Like all of these kinds of things, capitalism, they're using fucking sexual, and they're using your lowest desires and this and that to manipulate you. So there's many different layers of this, but on the base level, they're using your need for shelter. Because think about it, like really, you don't have to work. You could just stop, right? You could quit today. But then but then I might go homeless and this and that. And then see, these are things that you, in your mind, you've absolutely ruled out as an impossibility, especially because from society, it's always, those things are judged and shunned. And that's another one of your core needs. is approval and acceptance from others. So the way that this system is, it's like an octopus and it's got so many limbs and it's just got you wrapped in so many ways. You don't want to be homeless and this and that because then you're going to be judged. You're going to be labeled a bum, a failure. So that's not an option. Then you're saying, all right, cool. If I can't be that, then I have to work. So then if I'm working anyway, but like I work this small job, then I can barely even get like the girl that I want. I can't even get a house that I want. So fuck it. I'm a work extra hard. Then I'm a fucking get that nice thing. And then, so then you're already, see, you're being a good slave for society. They're going to collect all that energy, all that battery, charge you out for you, because of your insistence of, you know what I'm saying, filling those base desires, which of course, for like you can't ever just get rid of your base desires, but you can, through spirituality, through certain practices, certain self-mastery, you can slowly bring these things down to, you know what I'm saying? But you'll never get rid of them completely. But so yeah, so it's like before they would just keep you on the check, they would just have you, you know what I'm saying, give you some place to sleep, a couple pieces of bread, just enough for you to survive and stay alive, just to do more work for me, the slave master. You know what I'm saying? So it's literally like that now. Like they make you seem like, oh yeah, like I'm free, but I can do this. They just give you just enough to have your one holiday to stay sane, just a bit, enough time to, like, you know what I'm saying, get home, just rest, have that one sleep, just enough like energy to get back to work, but not enough to escape or break out of the system. So, as I said, my whole point of this whole tangent is that I think that all of this has been meticulously planned and executed very deliberately. This wasn't like by accident. They weren't just stupidly like, oh, like we're just gonna do intro and then it just kind of just happened somehow. We just got here. Maybe it was like that. Maybe we were just stupid and I don't know. But I genuinely feel like this was by design. So enough of all of that. I'm gonna summarize and then I'm gonna say a few things that I feel like like suggestions. Obviously, as I said, I'm not like some like economy genius or anything like this. This is just from my own realization. I just look at it and I'm just seeing, this is my opinion. I could be wrong, but this is my suggestion. Let me guys know what you think. So I'm gonna give you some solutions to that whole problem of what I was saying there, like the whole current situation we're in with inflation and all of that. But first, I'm gonna just kind of summarize everything. So yeah, money and energy is kind of the same thing. You can kind of think of, and it's zero. Energy is zero, and it's just oscillating between profit and loss, credit and debt. Like, you know what I'm saying? All this kind of stuff. Good and bad. You think, oh, profit's good. Like, as I said, there's always one side that you're trying to be on. On all the dualities, there's always a preferred side. And yeah, so as I said, it oscillates. Money is always moving. It's moving like through the channels to the banks and all of these things. Liquidity. Are you liquid? These kinds of things, right? What's it called? And once you fully get this, and then you'll start to realize every kind of exchange, even certain times you might have lost, someone might have stole something from you, and you think you really lost. You didn't lose. There's nothing to lose or gain in life. This is what you really need to understand. Once you start getting this, it's power, because a lot of the times you're trying to not do something because you're scared of loss, or you're doing something purely because of the gain you think you'll get. But what I'm trying to show you is that there is no such thing as profit or loss. Or you could say it is just a deviation and you're recording the deviation, but remember, it's anchored back into zero. It's always equal back into zero. So that guy might steal your money or something, and you might feel like you really lost, but you've gained an important lesson, knowledge. Now you know, all right, cool. I need to be more aware. I need to not be as naive and just, you know what I'm saying, like walk around with £1,000 in my pocket. I need to, you know what I'm saying, I need to not just like be friendly with some random stranger who comes up to me on the street or something, see? And then in the future you might prevent even way more losses because of that knowledge you gain. So you gain something. You can't lose anything without gaining something. And you can't gain something without losing something. See, this is what you need. Once you start getting, once it just clicks, oh, like this will be life changing for you. Then you'll start, all right, cool. Instead of me just trying to win the lottery and do this shortcut, all right, cool. I accept. I want it. Like, I want this level. I'm gonna have to fucking grind for it. And then furthermore, you might even say, for example, but there's some people, they work hard, but then they get like less result. And then this guy, like done less and then he got more. And sometimes that is the case, but what you have to realize is that person that was working really hard, as I said, energy is always moving and it's a direction. And I would suggest to you that that person that was working really hard, they was working at the wrong thing. That's the thing as well, is that what he was getting really, like, he was getting returns, but what he was doing was the wrong thing. Like, let's say, for example, like, I want to light a fire, right? And then, like, person A has a lighter, and then person B, like, doesn't have a lighter, and they're just there, I don't know, trying to rub their hands, or, I don't know, they're just trying to fucking do this shit, or some shit like that. They could work way harder, but a lot of your energy is being, like, lost. You're not directing it in the right, like, direction. So with the thing, it's just a little and then, you know what I'm saying? But see, even that, the lighter, to create that lighter, for it to have been that easy of a thing, there was, before that, in the process of making the lighter, there was energy expended. So you have to see that there is no, remember how I was explaining with a box, there is no, you can't just say, just in this moment. No, because you have to always look back and see the whole thing. And then you'll see, oh yeah, it does always just equal to zero. Any kind of thing. So then, yeah, so the main thing is you have to accept that with the effort and reward, but then at the same time, that doesn't mean, if you just fucking smash 60 hours a week at some cleaning job, you're going to become a millionaire. No. You know what I'm saying? You have to do it in the right, like, direction. So then if you pick the right direction to direct your energy and then you smash the effort, then you're going to fucking win. So you need to be in the right direction and apply the right amount of effort to achieve that equivalent amount of reward. So there's that. Yeah, man. I think so. I summed all of that up, and then what I would kind of suggest for like the solution for the inflation, the debt, all of this kind of stuff. Obviously, as I said, I might be wrong here, and there might be some like extra things that need to happen, and so on and so forth. But I think if you kind of just take the general idea of what I'm saying, it will make sense to you. And what I would say is, instead of the central banks or the governments or whatever printing and themselves going into debt, the central bank or the government or whoever is issuing out the money, or, you know what I'm saying, giving out the loans here and this and that and creating the money or whatever, supposed, right? The currency. The currency. Why is it called currency? Current. I've explained all of this shit to you now. So you have to start getting it, like, essentially they have to remain at zero. That has to be their utmost priority, is to remain at zero. However, they have to obviously be able to loan governments or loan this business or whatever people money, right? Let's say like they loan someone $100 million, and then what's going to be the incentive for them to pay me back if there's no interest on it? Because that's what usually people would think. They would make it seem, interest is kind of making them have an incentive to pay me back faster, because they know the longer it goes on, the more interest, and then the more they're going to have to pay me back. I hear that. It seems like that on the surface, but I feel like there's way better ways of like incentivizing them to pay you back. So let's say like the government loans out a certain amount, like 100 million to this like company or something for their project. They would, obviously this is where like it gets into little details here. We could do it this way or that way, but there's a whole loads of different ways of making sure that it gets paid back without interest. You could even do it in a way, for example, like if they take out one loan, they can't take out another until they've paid back that one. Or there could even be a particular measure of how long it takes them to lend it back or something like that, and then like put them on a score to where then they'll be able to only loan way less next time or some. Essentially, there's loads of ways. Like you would have to just think of ways to incentivize the money to always that gets loaned out to always come back, right? So that they don't just, we're just going to loan $1 billion, then we're going to loan $1 trillion, and there's no interest, so we'll just never pay them back, and it's calm, and then we're just going to finesse the bank. No, not like that. There has to be ways and incentives to make sure it always comes back, right? That's the main thing. As I said, the banks have to always remain on zero, and this has to always be without interest. There can be no interest in this system that I'm suggesting. So they can still loan out. They can do their thing, make their profits or whatever, and then when they pay it back, they have to pay back only exactly the same amount. Not less, not a penny less, not a penny more. No interest or anything. It just always has to come back to zero. And the main, like the bank's whole like thing is just to keep it on zero and to just always keep it on zero. So if it goes there and then it just, you know what I'm saying, always just keep it on zero. So they can never loan too much to here or loan to whatever. You get it, right? So then that way, the money like supplier will just always be itself, and it can never like go down into debt, and then so there's more money out there, so it's worth less, or that there's less money out there, so it's worth more. No, it will just always remain the same. One would equal to one. This is the fundamental problem. What you could almost think about interest is what they did is they made 1 equal to 1.001. And then literally that, it seems like it's nothing, but over the span of time, it just fucking, as I said, the structure, because the structure is like this, and then now, like, it seems like calm for now, but then over 100, 200 years, it just fucking, you know what I'm saying, and it's going to collapse. Why do you think the collapse is, I don't know if it's going to be now or 5 or 10 years, whatever. Like, eventually, just look at the S&P 500, just look at the charts, and like, we're in the everything bubble, like, we're in a bubble, right? All of this stuff a lot of this stuff isn't even fueled by like new innovation and stuff. A lot of it is just pure, just money supply, just printed in. So yeah, my main thing, as I said, is that there would have to be no interest. The banks, they would have to the money would have to always equal to zero, and every time they loan it out, it has to always come back and equalize back out. So as soon as the money comes back, they just delete it. It's just back to zero, if you get what I'm saying. And then the money that gets paid back, it would always just have to be exactly the same. And then that way, there would be no inflation, there would be no fucking anything. And then because it's fixed, then if people did want it, like, or then it would like go up naturally. So I wouldn't it wouldn't just be a straight line. There would still be oscillations, but it just wouldn't be, it wouldn't kind of be like how it is now, to where prices seem like they're going up in value, even though no actual new value is being provided. You see, that's where the problem is, the discrepancy between perceived value and actual value. No, this way, it would only be able to make gains on the chart if it was providing really good new products that everyone was liking and using and so on and so forth, rather than like they haven't even created new products, no one's even buying their thing, but there's so much money in supply that is pumping it up and making it look like this, but it's not that, and then eventually it's just gonna fucking collapse. You see? So yeah, man, that was one of the video ideas that I wanted to speak about. Money, energy, and the zero-sum game. So yeah, man, the zero-sum game, maybe because I didn't really speak too much about that, but you kind of get what I'm saying, is that and even just life in general is a zero-sum game, because it's just zero. That's what I'm saying. Like, so every kind of structure we can kind of build, like, is built upon the debt of something else. But then the debt has to be exactly equal to the like substance, if you understand. Then it's fine. Then it's balanced. Then it's good. Like, That's how it should be, and how I feel like we can make it like that. But the way it is now, to where it will always be imbalanced, like they're not even equivalent to each other, and then there's always going to be the discrepancy, and the more transactions and the more time, it just gets more and more out of hand. And then the only way they can solve the problem is by printing more, which makes it better in the short term, and then in the long term it just makes it worse, you see. So this is like the whole problem. But yeah, man, I hope that helps you out. And yeah.